We have discussed a lot about National Education Framework for Foundation Stage yesterday in the first chapter. And today we are with the second and third chapters, and our resource persons are all set to give us the valuable information as in what the document is speaking about studies or else basic literacy and numeracy that has to be taught to the students at this particular level. Now, firstly, I would like to welcome all the resource persons of the day. And firstly, I would like to welcome Mrs. Roja Rao. Ma'am is the resource person at SNTTC. She is also a master trainer. And here she is with us today to speak to us about the definitions that are given in the National Curriculum Framework for Foundation Stage. Yes, the screen is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, all. And without much ado, we must begin because this is a continuation of the previous session that was yesterday. And in this session, we are going to go with the definitions. In this chapter here, it is essential to actually clarify the key concepts that underpin the educational framework and understand the terms provided that provide a foundational context for discussing how these elements interconnect to shape effective teaching and learning process. So let's see the definitions here. So the first one, if you see, yes, sir, may I see the first slide, the second slide, please? Yeah. Coming to the aims of education, what is this aims of education actually? What it means here? Nothing but these are educational values or the statements, that is educational vision, which actually broadly shows the directions, okay, to the various educational systems. And you can see the educational systems that are given here and many more. It's not only curriculum development or institutional arrangements and funding and financing or people's capacities. And beyond that also, it is required here, the direction that is provided here, the aims of education provide. Now, what exactly NEP says? NEP says that the purpose of education system is to develop good human beings capable of rational thought and action, possessing compassion and empathy, courage and resilience, scientific temper and creative imagination, with sound ethical moorings and values. And it also aims at producing engaged, productive, contributing citizens, for building an equitable, inclusive, and plural society, as this has been envisaged by our constitution. So both NEP and our constitution go hand in hand with in fulfilling the aims of our education. The next key term is curricular goals. Now, what are these curricular goals? These curricular goals are the statements that give direction to the curriculum for the development and implementation. They are derived from the aims of education and for any particular stage. So now going to the next, that is, these aims are, these goals actually lead to what? Competencies. And these competencies are measurable, they are observable, they are accessible, and then we need to achieve them. We need to achieve these goals. And these competencies later on lead to our learning outcomes. These learning outcomes are nothing but the interim markers of learning achievements. And teachers, if they have these learning markers or interim markers, they are easily able to observe and track learning and respond to the needs of the learners. They are actually the granular milestones of learning and usually progress in a sequence leading to attainment of a competency. and they help in planning content, pedagogy, and assessment. Curriculum developers and teachers, they have the autonomy to define learning outcomes as appropriate to their classroom context as required. And if you see here, there's a small goal here, that is, children develop effective communication skills for day-to-day interactions in 2 languages. This is one of the curricular goals for the foundational stage. Now, what should be the competencies here? You can see here, the child converses fluently and can hold a meaningful conversation. You can have another, that is, the child understands oral instructions for a complex task and gives clear oral instructions for the same to others. Now, the progression from the aims of education to curricular goals, competencies, and ultimately learning outcomes outlines a structured approach to fostering student development and ensuring effective educational practices. With this, I would like to give over this platform to our next participant. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the precise explanation, Roja ma'am.
Thank you.
That
Sir.
was really easy for all of us to understand. You have given just on fingertips, you have explained clearly what all the 4 definitions are. Thank you. Now it's time that I welcome Mrs. Saima Siddiqui as to give us a few inputs about key concepts, practical implications, and context. We welcome you, ma'am.
Good evening, all the educators. Good evening, sir. Actually, this section outlines a structured and logical sequence in education, which starts from broad abstract aims and flow down to the specific measurable learning outcomes. For example, what is suggested by NEP 2020, that what is the main aim of education? The main aim of education is to understand why a child is acquiring an education. For these specific to achieve these aims, there are certain structured procedures which are suggested in this specific chapter. Number 1, that a learner and an educator must decide what are the curricular goals. That is, what curriculum is intended to teach, what curriculum is intended to be achieved. Next is what competencies, that is, what skill will be achieved when the child will be acquiring this particular education, or the child will be acquiring this particular topic or the curriculum. Then what will be the learning outcomes for the specific education that is given to the child, and what is the knowledge acquired by the child, derived by the final learning outcomes. Now, this systematic approach ensures aligning across the syllabus, teaching methods, and overall educational experience. Now, what is the purpose of education? The purpose of this flow is to help educators and the institutions focus on the specific and observable learning outcomes and the learning objectives that accumulates towards achieving the broader competencies, curricular goals, and ultimately achieving the aim of education. The next slide. Now, what are certain aims to curricular goals? Number 1 is, what is the broad aim of education? As outlined in NEP 2020, the broad aim of education is to give direction and purpose to education. The most important thing is that the education that we are giving to the children must have an aim and must have an outcome also. It must have a purpose also, and it should include all the foundational stages of the child. Number 2 is the domains of development. These refers to various aspects of child development that are essential at the early age of the child to the age where the child will grow. The NCF considers both ancient and Indian traditions of development, inquiring such as Panchkosha model and Taittiriya Upanishads, and modern scientific understanding. Sir, please, next slide. Yes. The domains of development consist of the Panchkosha development of the child, as we had discussed earlier also when we had conducted the session on NCF. Now, it is about the Panchkosha development of the child. It consists of the physical development, which is called is Anamya Kosha, which refers to the physical development of the child, the growth of the child, whether the child is taking the balanced diet, how is the physical growth of the child, and what are the activities that a child is getting involved in. The next kosha is about pranamaya kosha. That is the kosha which is vital energy. It is about life. It is about breathing. It is about the emotional balance of the child. It is about the state of the state of emotional quotient of the child, and it also includes what physical activities the child is involving in, and the child is whether the child is doing yoga. The next comes the socio emotional and ethical development, which is manomaya kosha, which is actually related to the cognitive development and the mental development of the child. These domains involve emotional awareness and regulation, as well as the ethical and social understanding in the child. For example, the thoughts that are coming to the mind of the child. What are the feelings like at various stages of life? The child may experience many feelings. How is the child and the teachers are able to manage and balance the feelings of the child, the mental challenges, how is a child is able to cope up with the challenges that are coming to him or her, and how intelligently the child is coping up with these challenges. The next come is cognitive development. This relate to Vijanamaya Kosha, that is intellect, focusing on the intellectual engagement of the child, how the child is, problem solving capacity of the child, the critical thinking, how the child is able to think critically, and how the child is able to take informed decisions. The next is aesthetic and the cultural development, which is connected to Anandamaya Kosha. That is, this domain focuses on engaging children with arts, culture, and creative expression. How creative the child is. How the education is able to enhance the creativity in the child, helping them to develop an appreciation for the beauty and the diversity that they see around them. Next slide, sir. Yes. The sources of competencies and the foundation literacy. This also, in the last slide, it was also mentioned that NEP specially emphasizes on the foundation literacy and numeracy in this. NEP 2020 stresses the urgency of mastering the basic literacy and the numeracy in all the children, starting from the foundational stage. Why the language and literacy is important, supporting reading, writing, and communication in the child, and to get the balance and the cognitive development in the child. Now, what are the sources of curricular goals and competencies? Now, in NCF, explain how competencies are derived and what are the curricular goals. Competencies represent a specific skill. Yet, what skills are acquired by the child when the child reaches to the particular stage of life? What knowledge is required by the child? And the attitude that students need to develop in order to meet the curricular goals. Now, what are curricular goals? These competencies are derived tied to the achieving the overreaching goals to the foundational stage. Next comes the curricular research, the current research, the latest trends that are coming in the field of the education, which includes AI. Now, if suppose the current research says that collaborative learning enhances the child ability to learn, that means this is a research that has been done. So the teachers must include some collaborative learning activities in their day-to-day teaching, which will enhance the child ability to learn. The next is the educational experience. The experiences of various educational initiatives and systems within India contribute shaping and competencies, ensuring they reflect practical teaching and learning realities. What experiences the child is experiencing in day-to-day teaching, what experiences the child is getting when the child is going to the school. So all these are included. Now the contextual factors. The last one is the contextual factors, the consideration of the local context, such as the availability of the resources. Like for example, all the schools does not have all the resources. There are certain schools which are very resourceful. So An educator must be able to make use of all the available resources in the school, institutions, and the capacity, the time that has been utilized in the school, the teachers' availability, the teachers' expertise, and all these things play a very critical role in shaping the list of competencies in children. So it is about making the best use of resources that are available in the schools. Yes, sir. Next. Yes, this focus on ensuring that all the stakeholders, the teachers, the schools, the policymakers, the parents, all are clear about the competencies that children should achieve during foundational stage, tracking progress and reaching the competencies for every child. Now, from competencies to learning outcomes. Now, this section also explain about uh, yes, yes, we have to understand that the children that are coming to us are coming from various backgrounds, from various culture, from various traditions. So a teacher, an educator must be able to understand the learning needs of the child and must be able to modify the lesson plan and the teaching methodology as per the need of the child. Next is the based on the broad understanding of the educational system. The educational system, what is the demand of the educational system? So that is also important. The teacher should be able to modify and the educator should be able to modify the teaching style, the methodology as per the education system. Context, the specific, the need of the school and the classroom, and the freedom for the learners to achieve an outcome. Differentiated learning. Like in the class, you will not have all the children that are coming from the same background, that are coming from the same cultures. So a teacher must understand that all the children are different and should, plan the lesson as per the need of the children, differentiated as per their need, as per the what to cater them as per their need. So this was about all about in this particular section, sir. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Saima ma'am. That was crisp and clear. Now let us welcome Mrs. Aarti Khillan as to share her insights with us about the curricular goals. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now, after competencies, we need to understand the curricular goals for the foundational stage. Now, we are going to explore the foundational goals. We are going to explore the curricular goals, which are vital in shaping the early education of the children. And again, children are from the age 3 to 8. So, NCF has taken a comprehensive approach, which is able to map the educational outcomes to the various domains of child development, ensuring that the child's growth is holistic. Before we dive into specifics, let us highlight that the curricular goals can be reviewed, it can be adapted over time. It is based on the implementation experiences and evolving national aspirations, and it ensures, please see, it ensures that curriculum remains relevant to the changing needs of the society, to the changing needs of the learners, and it contributes to the development of the learners. So these are categorized into different development domains. Next slide, sir. Talking about different domains, the first one is physical development. The curriculum goal for first, in this, children develop habits that keep them healthy and safe. This goal emphasizes cultivating behavior like hygiene, safety awareness, and healthful living. And talking about curriculum goal second, children develop sense kind of sharpness. Yes, it is sharpness in sensorial perceptions. Here, whether it is taste, smell, or touch, we enable them to better understand their environment, all the senses: sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch. Children develop a fit and flexible body here. Physical fitness, motor skill development are the keys which promote activities which keep their body agile and they are healthy through play, exercise, and movement. Here, the family role increases, where here the teachers have to make them busy when we
Ma'am, you
talk
got
about
muted.
skill.
Yes.
Okay. Now, talking about curricular goal 4th, 5th, and 6th, they are all for social, emotional, and ethical development. Children develop emotional intelligence over here. That is, ability to understand and manage their own emotions. And they respond positively to the social norms. This goal, it stresses the importance of emotional regulation. It makes them understand the social cues, thus fostering positive social behavior and emotional resilience. And we all know this is the need of the hour. If we talk about curriculum goal 5th, children develop a positive attitude towards productive work and service, that is seva, building a positive mindset where they are able to value the work, where they value service. And this goal is linked to teaching children the importance of contribution and community service. Curriculum goal 6 is children develop a positive regard for the natural environment around them. This goal nurtures an early awareness, respect for nature, promoting environmental stewardship and sustainable habits. Coming on to curricular goals 7th and 8th, they are there for cognitive development. Here, children make sense of the world around them through observation and logical thinking. It focuses on helping children develop critical thinking and problem solving skills, the 21st century skills through exploration, through observation, and reasoning. Children develop mathematical understanding and abilities to recognize the world through quantities, shapes, and measures. This encourages math skill, basic math skill, and it helps children to understand and navigate the world through numbers, shapes, and spatial relationships. So it is again literally important. Coming on to the next, it is language and literacy development. Curriculum goal 9 states that children develop effective communication skills for day-to-day interactions, at least in 2 languages, and multilingual this communication has been emphasized. It encourages children to speak and understand at least 2 languages, improving their ability to express themselves. In curriculum goal 10th, children develop fluency in reading and writing in language 1, that is their own mother tongue. The primary language is the prime focus over here. It is a key focus, thus ensuring that children can read and write fluently in their first language. Curriculum goal 11, children began to read and write in language 2. Alongside their primary language, here children are introduced to a second language to develop basic literacy skills in it. And then comes aesthetic and cultural development, where children develop abilities and sensibilities in visual and performing arts and express their emotions through art in meaningful and joyful ways. So who doesn't know the art experience of integrating art in our teaching? So these arts are seen as vital channel. Why? Because here children are able to express their emotions, their creativity, and they develop an appreciation for visual and performing arts. And it includes painting, music, dance, and much more. And the last is positive learning habit, where children develop the habit of learning and we allow them to engage. The goal aims to cultivate positive attitude through learning, nurturing curiosity, perseverance, and self-discipline. And we all know it is very, very essential for formal schooling. Yes, sir. Next. Now, this is very important. It is here we are going to focus on the crucial role of ethics, values, and disposition that it plays in our school education. This early introduction, it helps shape their character. It helps instill values and ultimately prepare students to live productively, happy, and responsible life. So, what is the importance? Starting with the importance, introducing ethics at this young age is vital because it lays the foundation for the children to make sound, moral decisions in their future. Encouraging students to regularly ask themselves the ethical questions: will this hurt someone? We as teacher should make them understand, is this right thing to do? This help build a logical framework for decision making. For not only their character, but decision making has to be there from this age itself. As child progresses through school, this ethical framework expands to build productive lives. This goal is there to enable students to adopt ethical values in their daily life, consider multiple perspectives on ethical issues, and practice integrity in all the aspects. So, direct and indirect approaches can be taken over here. The direct approach says where we have structured classroom activities, where we have discussions in the class, where the lessons are designed to teach them moral reasoning. But indirect methods involve ethical discussions into subjects like literature, language, and social studies. So, for example, stories and discussions on theme like non-violence, creating a seamless way of children. So, this is a seamless way of telling our children, or somehow enhancing, or somehow making them explore the ways, the values through different subjects. So this is how children come to know about seva and try to integrate them into the various subjects. Now, talking about traditional values, as well as there are traditional values and constitutional values. If traditional values we discuss, there are concepts like seva, that is selfless service; ahimsa, that is non-violence; swachhta, that is cleanliness; and satya, that is truthfulness, which is rooted in the Indian philosophy. And constitutional values are like liberty, equality, fraternity, justice, tolerance, inclusion, and scientific temper. So these all themes can be embedded so that we are able to create in future socially responsible citizens. So the curriculum and the social culture should ensure that these values are not only taught, but they are also practiced through classroom processes, through classroom projects and activities. Thus, we are encouraging children to embody these values that help build their character and citizenship from an early stage. Talking about key values, these are all patriotism, non-violence, honesty, equality, fraternity, respect for all, democratic outlook, then liberty, social responsibility, scientific temper, unity, and the best of all is taking pride in their own culture, own traditions, that is pride in India. The researchers have highlighted the benefits of incorporating socio-emotional learning into education. Now, this socio-emotional learning fosters emotional resilience and cognitive regulation. It enhances both personal well-being as well as academic success. Now, there are a few activities which promote all these, and these activities are teamwork, then role-playing, conflict resolution, and reflective writing. Let us ask children to reflect on their experience. Then these SEL, socio-economic learning, it also cultivates empathy. It reduces stress in our children, and it promotes better social interaction, thus helping our children to build a supportive community in the classroom and beyond. For this, we need to increase activities like teamwork, games, role playing, and then we can tell them stories about our Indian heroes and leaders, our Indian, revolt of 1857, where our heroes had been there and how they had participated. All these life lessons in a very fun and engaging way will help them to internalize. Yes, this is the need. It helps them to internalize the ethical values through the power of storytelling. There can be discussions in the classes on Indian constitutions and the values of equality, liberty, and fraternity. If this will become the classroom discussion, definitely it will encourage our students to become conscientious citizens, and we will be able to embody, you know, we will be able to have ethics and values in children and in their everyday learning. So basically, to summarize, embodying ethics, values, and dispositions into the foundational stage of education, it is crucial not only for developing children, it is not only good for children, it is good for our future citizens. We need to help students to grow into responsible, empathetic, socially conscious adults who will be able to contribute positively to the society. And here, that's all for this chapter. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Aarti ma'am. I don't know how always you come up with very, like critical subject matter with utmost simplified method. That is really appreciable, and it was definitely wonderful listening to you today as well. Now let us move on to the next part, for which I would like to welcome Mrs. Abhilasha Verma, wherein ma'am is going to explain about competencies.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Aarti ma'am, Roja ma'am, and Saima ma'am. Wonderfully explained. Roja ma'am has already given just a short of what is competency. So, what do you understand by competencies? So, competencies are a set of measurable skills, knowledge, abilities, behaviors, and other characteristics that enable someone to perform their roles successfully. And in foundational stage, what does competencies mean? So it encourages the holistic development of the child, cultivating them in all aspects. On the screen, you can see the various domains and their curriculum goals, which already Aarti ma'am has explained. So various domains are physical development, social, emotional and ethical development, cognitive development, language and literacy development, aesthetic and cultural development. So we'll move on to the next slide for each and every domain's explanation. Sir, next slide, please, sir. So first domain is physical development. It is one of the many domains of infant and toddler development. It relates to the growth and skill development in the body, brain, muscles, and senses. So the child develops the habits that keep them healthy and safe, and the child develops sharpness in sensory perceptions, like he developed the multiple senses and tastes, discrimination in the sense of touch. The motor skills development is there mostly in this phase, foundational stage. So next slide, please. The next slide. The next domain is socio-emotional and ethical development. So researchers believed that children learn through their social interactions. As children grow and expand their experiences, they encounter various conflicts that they must overcome. Once children learn to successfully overcome these conflicts, they build upon valuable skills that impact them later in their lives. Conflicts in foundational stage may be among the peers for small things in school or among their siblings, which sometimes leaves an impact on child's mind till older age. So the development of emotional intelligence, that is the ability to understand and manage their own emotions and response positively to social norms, positive attitude, positive regard for the nature environment around them. It all deals with the social, emotional, and ethical development of the child in foundational stage. The next slide, please. The third domain is cognitive development. In early childhood, cognitive development is the process of a child's mental abilities process of growth and maturing. It's a gradual process that begins at birth and continues into adolescence. It is very important because it lays the foundation for learning and education. It helps children develop skills like developing vocabulary, numeracy skills, that is, learning to count, problem solving, and creativity. The child learns to solve puzzles, answer the questions, play games, and so on. Here, the child's mathematical understanding and abilities to recognize the world through quantities, shapes, and measures develop. The mathematical understanding, like addition and subtraction of two-digit number, recognizing the basic geometrical shapes, simple measurements of length, weight, volume, and time. Then simple transactions using money up to 100 rupees. And then vocabulary for comprehending and expressing concepts and procedures, formulas, solving simple mathematical problems related to quantity, shape, space, and measurements, all comes under cognitive development of the child. So next slide, please. So next comes the language and literacy development of the child. So this domain deals with the process of learning to communicate, read through speech, and print. The child learns how to read the print form or to write small letters, 2-3 letter words. The child learns to write, connect to oral language, learn simple to complex sentences, and develop the LSRW skills. The child also develops fluency in reading and writing in language. So the child starts reading stories, short stories, and if you have seen the book of the foundational stage children, the fonts are very large so that it can be easily read. Short poems and begins to appreciate the poem for its own choice of words and imagination. They shows the interest in picking up and reading a variety of children's book. Then they learn about the phonetics and various LSRW skills. The next slide, please. The last domain is the aesthetic and cultural development. Here, the child develops the sense of music through toys, instruments, and technology, art and culture in his or her family. The aesthetic education as a teaching methodology utilizes the element and qualities of beauty, art, nature, music, drama, color, sound, taste, smell, environmental, cultural, and social elements. The cultural background gives children a sense of who they are. The unique cultural influences children respond to from birth, including customs and beliefs around food, artistic expression, language, and regional religion, affect the way they develop emotionally, socially, physically, and linguistically. The cultural development highlights how human societies adapt their cultural practices based on environmental conditions and available resources. For example, communities living in the coastal areas may develop fishing traditions and maritime customs that are distinct from those in the inland regions. And of course, the family plays a very vital role in the overall child's aesthetic and cultural development. The child learns to communicate and appreciates a variety of responses while creating and experiencing different forms of art, local culture, and heritage. The child learns to observe, wonder, curiosity increases, and he learns to explore. And various classroom norms like adaptation and follow the norms with agency and understanding. The child develops habits of learning that allow them to engage actively in formal learning environments like a school classroom. That's all from my side. So here ends the competency part. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for making such a huge content more crisp and clear, Abhilashama. Now it is time that we invite Mrs. Jayavani Jayaraman for giving her insights to all of us about illustrative learning outcomes. Yes, now this is actually a topic that has to be taken very much clearly into the participants, and I am very much excited to listen to Mrs. Jayavani. The screen is all yours.
Yeah, thank you, Abhilasha ma'am. You've done my job very easy because I'm just going to illustrate the outcomes of what you have said. What all the domains you have said, I'm just going to have an example for each one of the outcomes. So here, dear educators, if you want, you can take a screenshots of this because I'm just going to tell you about the examples of the domains. First one, it comes about the domain of physical development. So here, the children develops a sharpness in the sensorial perceptions. Here, the children is able to differentiate between the shapes, colors, and their shade. For example, we can just make in the foundational, like what means one week blue color can be celebrated, next week pink color can be celebrated, so that the children can identify the colors and they can just make it out what are all the primary colors, what are the secondary colors, and from that they can just elaborate the experiments in use of colors in arts also. So here the children learning outcome for the fundamental will be articulated by differentiating the different shapes, colors, and their shapes. So the next one, sir. So here come the next one about the domain is about the social, emotional, and ethical development. The outcomes of these social, emotional, and ethical development will be the children develops a positive attitude towards a productivity work. So when we talk about this, no, the children will do some responsibility of their own. For an example, if they take the toy from that place, they'll go and keep it the same place where they put the toy, and they'll just assist the children to do some of the work to organize in the classroom. And sometimes, no, the children will definitely clean their own plates and tiffin boxes and place them in an order in a classroom. All these things will come about the appropriate physical work towards helping others. So the next one. So the next domain outcome of the cognitive development will be like the children develop the mathematical understanding and abilities to recognize the world through quantities, shapes, and measures. For example, the children can arrange up to 1 to 5 in a descending order, or how come they just take up their incidents by tearing the calendar sheet. They can just tell last date this is and this today this is, so they can just have the count of the numbers and they easily arrange the numbers from the given set of the numbers. All these things will come under the children learns from the ascending and the descending order. The next one will be the illustrate outcomes of the domain of language and literacy development. So the next slide, see. So here the children develops the fluency in reading and writing in the language one. So the children able to read short stories and their meaning by identifying the characters, the storyline, and what the author wants to say on their own language. For example, the children listen to the teacher how they speak aloud. And when the teacher guides her, no, what they used to do, no, the children will have, along with the teacher, the children will start reading. So these are all the beginners for the children. We are taking the initiative steps for the children to read by themselves. So this method has been used in the curricular goal for making the children to read short stories and really understanding by the character names, and the children will act according to that itself. The next domain learning outcome will be the aesthetic and cultural development here. So the next slide. So here the children develops the ability and sensibilities in visual and performing arts and express their emotion through art in meaningful and joyful ways. Here the children explore and play with a variety of materials and tools and to create the two-dimensional or three-dimensional art in varying the sizes. So here the children grabs everything and they wants to work out it out, and they easily use their for example, where has to be dark portion, dark shades they will be put. Where the light, if there is a sky, they are just going to draw. The sky will be very light blue color, so they will just put the things in the very light. So the children knows about the two-dimensional and three-dimensional artwork in varying sizes and their proportions also. The next one will be the next slide, see. So the next one will be the competency to adopt themselves for the classroom adaptations. The children develop the habit of learning that follow them to engage actively in formal learning environment like a school classroom. So the children, yesterday's section itself, we told that the children are the best imitations. They will imitate the adult. For example, if a girl child is there, evening after doing their homework, they'll play the role of their teacher in home. They use the board as the wall. They use the board and they start teaching as a teacher. So the children are the best imitator, and they adapt and follow the norms with the agencies and understanding. So these are all the domains outcome with an example. I hope so. You all have taken the screenshot, and please refer to the page number of 64 to 69, and it will be useful for your lesson plans also. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jayavani ma'am. That was again very well explained, and hope there would be a very good takeaway for all the participants from what you have explained them. Now it's time that we step into the third chapter. Yeah, just people who have questions can ask the resource person about your questions before we start with the third chapter. Yeah, and for this, I would like to welcome Aarti ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Should I start? So this is basically the principles. Dear audience, the overarching aim of NCF approach, I'm sure it is clear by now. And when we talk about language education, it is to ensure that children learn education in such a way so that they can optimize learning across all the domains, whether it is communication skills or socioeconomic skills. And during these early years, and then throughout, it continues throughout their lives. If it is learning language acquisition, then it is the most sensitive period. Now you can see these are all the principles where children learn spoken languages more rapidly. That is between the age of 0 to 8. Then multilingualism is there, and it is both a cognitive and social. Maybe it is for the culture benefits. And while spoken language comes naturally to young children, and we all understand that the written language comes less naturally. We have to work for it. We have to really work hard. And those who have younger children at home, nobody can understand better than them. Then young children learn and grasp non-trivial concepts more quickly and deeply as compared to the familiar concepts. And then language forms a critical aspect of cultural awareness and expression. And this is considered among the major competency which is important to be developed in children. Now, let me take all these things in detail. Next slide, sir. Now, in order to learn spoken language, which is most rapidly between the age 0 to 8, we must remember that this is a critical period for spoken languages. They learn rapidly But these sensitive periods are crucial and must be utilized effectively. Why? Because the impact of daily language, delayed language learning is too much. The consequences of postponing language, they are exposed later in the life. It means future acquisition of the language becomes more challenging. While it is not impossible, I will not say it is impossible, but late language learners, they face greater difficulties. Then the third one is importance of early exposure to multiple language. There are various benefits of exposing multiple languages in the early childhood, but yes, it gives them cognitive flexibility and creativity, and it facilitates smoother transition to new languages later in life. I hope you have already understood language 1 and language 2 over here, but yes, it will give a smoother transition. That means it will be easy for them to learn better in the other languages as well. And strategies for maximizing language acquisition. Then I must say it fosters effective learning acquisition, and the best part is through multilingualism. Next. Now we need to understand multilingualism as it offers both cognitive and societal, maybe the cultural advantages. The best part is enhanced cognitive development. It helps in designing appropriate early language learning experiences. Whatever children learn through multilingualism, it enhances their experiences. They are able to relate with the things. They are able to learn better. And what is the cognitive benefit? They are exposed to the multiple languages. Their exposure to the multiple languages, it provides them significant cognitive stimulation. And this helps making learning better, whether languages are concerned or anything other than those languages is there. Social emotional benefits of multilingualism. It is, the best part is the positive impact of everything. Through this, children can navigate social interaction. It fosters empathy. It develops understanding of diverse cultures. The another point is natural language learning environment. It creates that environment. Formal teaching over here is less effective as compared to what children understand through multilingualism. Most children in India are exposed to multiple languages from the early age. That is, India is a diverse country. So designing appropriate early language learning experiences become very important over here, where we can focus on developmentally appropriate practices for language learning. So, in conclusion, I can say that early multilingual exposure enhances, it exposes students to more cognitive, social, and cultural development. And it builds strong multilingual foundations, which is very, very important for the holistic growth of our children. Next, sir. Now, how we are going to introduce our children to the language acquisition. One way is natural versus learned language skills. Spoken language develops naturally in children. We have already studied before. We have already listened to it. So reading and writing are the learned concepts that need instruction. I repeat once again, we are here differentiating between natural versus learned language skill. And remember, spoken language comes naturally. We need to dictate, or we need to develop reading and writing concepts. It needs instruction. Now, importance of oral language immersion. Second point is importance of oral language. Here we are trying to immerse children in multiple oral languages, and it develop their linguistic skills. And this is the foundation for literacy development in our children. Then comes reading and writing. And most important over here is phonemes and graphemes. I mean, listen carefully. Phoneme is the smallest unit of sound, and grapheme is the smallest written unit. Here we try to teach our children the relationship between phonemes and graphemes. So smallest unit of sound and smallest unit of writing, we need to understand over here. and try to explain the relationship between the two. We can teach a single language approach. We can take up a single language approach to literacy. So best taught first through single familiar language, whichever is the mother tongue, better teach through that. Home language here is ideal for early literacy development. Then comes how to introduce multiple scripts. So once basic literacy is introduced, once basic language is introduced, other scripts come up, naturally. It becomes easy. We have to teach our students for decoding and literacy skills. Now, basic main point over here is basics of literacy is decoding. Understand, it is decoding. Decoding is the association of phonemes to graphemes. Phoneme is, please, anybody who can help me. What is phoneme? The smallest unit of sound.
Sound.
Yeah, exactly. And what is grapheme?
Smallest unit of writing.
Excellent.
The script.
Yes. So literacy is more effectively learned in a familiar spoken language, and from where we develop phonemes and graphemes. And the last comes the importance of teaching in home language, where it has already been said, it is important for children. It is easy for children to listen, comprehend, and then enhance the social interaction. So here we develop the skills like communication, literacy, creativity, and numeracy. Next slide, sir. This is preschool language competency. Here, by the age of 3, children have significant competence in their home language, and it supports cognitive and socio-economic development, socio-emotional development. So I think economic is coming again. It is socio-emotional development. And then we have the impact of unfamiliar language instruction over here. The negative impact of using unfamiliar. So this gives you the reason that why we have to teach students in their mother tongue. Because if they will, listen to something unfamiliar, from there itself, their children will disregard the previous learning. And it not only reverses the early foundation learning, but it also hinders the child's progress. So we need to start with their mother tongue only. Then there have been evidences of better performance if we teach this through their mother tongue. This has been the research. The researches have proved that children taught in their mother tongue, they perform better in subjects like mathematics and science. And global and Indian evidences have supported this. Talking about the NEP 2020, here also there is a shift to interactive learning, and that shift has to be through mother tongue. Then there is transfer of skills. That is, skill in one language easily can be transformed to the another if we start through the mother tongue. Rejecting the home language sometimes may harm the self-esteem and the confidence of the child in the early stages itself. So we have to take care of the emotional security and the learning of the students. A supportive, familiar language environment, remember, it fosters positive relationships and learning, and it brings about the holistic development through familiar languages. And that is what I said, the NEP 2020, it encourages creativity, discovery, discourages rote learning, and it will only be discouraged if we try to approach the new learning through mother tongue. Next slide. The last one, the language and the cultural awareness. Yes, language is a key to cultural awareness. Language is central to cultural expression and identity. It helps children develop a sense of belonging and identity. Now, what is the impact of language on cultural awareness? What is the impact of language on development? Because it leads to increased pro-social behavior, it increases self-esteem, and it brings about the personal growth of the children. Remember, this language fosters tolerance. This language fosters appreciation for other cultures and identities. So it builds on culture identity. So we as educational fraternity, let's build on, let's strengthen cultural identity of our students through language, knowledge of one's cultural history, knowledge of languages, knowledge of arts and traditions. It will promote self-esteem. So we need to support the development of communication and creativity. Next come importance for societal well-being. Now this language contributes to individual well-being through identity formation. It promotes social well-being. It promotes societal well-being by fostering tolerance and social harmony. So here, the homes and the local languages. So role of home and local languages, it becomes pivotal. Value of home, value of local, value of Indian languages can be understood when we understand that it enhances cultural awareness. It is easy when the children in the home sits together with their family and discusses about their culture. When the class time is there, when the circle time is there, where we are spending time with our children, talking with them, and this brings about the children's holistic development. The competencies are developed through this cultural awareness. It builds on communication skills, it develops their creativity, and yes, it brings a new sense, a strong sense of identity in our children. It positively impacts both personal and societal growth. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Now it's time that it's time that we explore the NCF's approach towards language education and literacy in foundation stage, for which I would like to welcome Ms. Roja Rao. The screen is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Aarti ma'am. You have made it more easy for me to go with this. And what NCF says is how the language education should be approached in this foundational stage is the primary medium of instruction should be the language one, that is the home language. And if the children are going with their home language, if they speak in their home language, it is actually they are able to understand and grasp things easily. And for this, if the children are speaking in their language, teachers should help them respect their language, appreciate them, motivate them, encourage them rather to speak in that language, should not stop them from speaking in that language. Now, this language, if is taken as a home language, if it is taken, then they are able to speak well, they are able to listen, understand, and when they play, like home, house, and they play any sort of game, they feel at home, they feel they are involved in it, they are engaged in it, and they come on to the school, they feel like coming to school, they are engaged. Now suppose if they are not able to understand, or they are how they feel dejected actually when their teachers, when there are certain discrepancies or challenges, like the teachers are not proficient in this language one, they are not locals and they do not know the local culture, then in that case they need to at least develop. But they should also learn and they should also help the children learn. But along with it, there are supplementary, you can say, options here for this. That is, parents can also be called up, and they can help in this. Parental involvement can be a good thing, which can help in, because the learning should go on. The transition should go on. There shouldn't be any stoppage over there. The children should not feel dejected there, that their learning is not happening, or they are not feeling included in the class. So ma'am, I go to the next slide. Yeah, the next one, please. Yeah. So now once the children start learning their language, the home language, the mother language, or the familiar language that they are used to, once they start learning that, they are able to speak, they are able to converse. And once they do that, slowly there should be an exposure to multiple oral languages, that is different languages, L2 and L3. So the children here in this slowly, the children at this stage, that is from 3 to 8 years, they have that ability to learn languages, and they grasp the languages very easily. And this grasping power will help them even grasping these languages will help them even in their cognitive development. And not only that, they can learn to balance, the local language as well as the languages like second and the third language here. That will help only if they are able to use these languages in a mixed proportion, and they are able to communicate easily. And the multiple languages, multilingual strategies, as already Aarti ma'am has told, that will help them develop their cognitive in their cognitive benefits. Now, this developing oral languages skills in multiple languages will actually help the child to understand what he is learning, what they are learning, and slowly they will be able to go to the next level of their learning. So may I go to the next stage? Next, yeah. Now, how these next that is how the introduction to reading and writing will develop. As ma'am has already told, now the graphemes and the phonemes that need to be introduced here. So in the 3 to 6 years, maybe they will have fun with the phonics and all that. But as they go towards the other ages, that is 6 to 8, they will easily be able to read, and they will be able to read the print material which is being exposed to them, as well as they are able to write because of the graphemes and phonemes that are easily decodable for them, and they can understand and express themselves easily. Next slide, sir. Yeah. So now this learning of both languages, that is the first languages to converse, that is the oral conversation. But later on, when they start reading, that becomes the R1. That means when they start reading the language, the print, they are able to change from slowly from their mother tongue to they are able to understand the concepts that they come across, they learn, they can develop the higher order thinking skills, and their language literacy skills will also be developed. By the end of class 3, they are now able to read and speak and even write properly using the different languages. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Roja ma'am, and thank you to all the different resource persons who have done a wonderful job today. And I would like to extend my thanks to all the participants as well, because I know we went a little above time, but I know we were doing a complete job. That was more important than just those 10 extra minutes that we took. I hope everybody is appreciative of that. If anybody has any doubts, you can ask now, or if you have any feedback to share, please feel free. Meanwhile, as you know, if you want to collect your certificates, you have to pay 50 rupees to the number I will just be sharing on the chat right now. As I do that, if anyone has anything to add, anything to say, please feel free. All right, so we have added the number of the chat, and we will meet tomorrow again for the next chapter, that is chapter 4. Have a nice day, all of you. Bye-bye. Yes, all the resource persons have done justice to the job of explanation. I'm glad you feel that way, ma'am. Thank you so much. It always feels nice to be appreciated. Okay, we'll meet again tomorrow. Have a nice day, everyone.